Hello, and welcome back to another episode. So, we are talking about my top 10 underrated Xbox 360 shooters. So, these are 10 games you will probably not see on any other list anywhere. Because they're games that I grew up with. They saw me through a lot of my teenage years. Others I've just kind of gone back and rediscovered. I say gone back, it was like 4 years ago. But, you know, I've gone back and I've really got into them. We'll get to those ones last, because the bulk of it is stuff I kind of grew up with, to a degree, I suppose, or like 16, 17. But let's start from... Tell you what, let's start from the earliest two. So the earliest two for me are, well, earliest four. These are in kind of order. Give me a moment. Yep, these are kind of in order of my discovery of them, sort of release order. So we'll start with The Darkness. The Darkness is one of the very early Xbox 360 games I got. This is my original copy. I asked my mum to nip into town. I was like, there's a game called The Darkness. It looks really interesting. It's £5. Can you get it? And she did, which is great. And I've still got that copy. It's a slower shooter, but its main advantage is, outside the fact it's sort of janky, it's a horror-themed shooter based around the Darkness series by Dark Horse Comics. I think. Sorry, Darkness. Yeah. Dark Horse, I think. Could be wrong. Don't hold me to that. Might be Image. Might be Top Cow. Who knows? Basically, it's the guys behind Witchblade. I think that might be Top Cow. But anyway. It's based around a comic. Which I didn't know. I looked into it at the time, but the main advantage of this is you get a series of 4 powers because you're possessed by this primordial being called the Darkness, voiced wonderfully by whatever his name is, because I can't remember. I'm using my phone to record this, so I can't look it up, which is great. But yeah, wonderfully voiced. The sequel... Yeah, sequel came out in... So this came out in 2007? 2008? Yep, 2007. Came out in 2007 from Sundance. I think? Yeah, Sundance. I think it's still around. Could be wrong. But Sundance, and it's awesome. It was kind of my first introduction to a properly mature game. It was my first 18. I mean, technically I had... Gears of War. Gears of War before this. But my first... I didn't get properly into Gears until I got 2, at which point I went... should maybe play 1. But Darkness I've played, finished, beaten multiple freaking times. It's still a lot of fun. It's very slow. It's a very slow shooter, unlike the sequel. Sequel came out in 2012. A completely different take on how the Darkness works. Decidedly more fluid in its gameplay. But it lacked a lot of the atmosphere that the first one had. The first one was very dark, very slow, took itself very seriously. There's a bit where... Spoilers, by the way. There'll be spoilers for all these games if they have spoilers to tell. But the main protagonist's partner gets shot in the head, and he takes his own life. Which doesn't work, because the Darkness is like, Jackie, I'm going to stick your head back together. So while you're getting your head stuck back together by the Darkness, it kind of shoves your brain into its own reality, which is basically World War One. Except the people in there are people who've either been in touch with or possessed by the Darkness as time has gone on, and they're basically forced to fight an eternal war against zombies, which is fun. And a lot of it's really interesting. And there's like the 4 horsemen. There's the 4 horses of the apocalypse. There's just a very ill-looking one, which is there's like a cross with a horse kind of stuck on it. That's death. War is a giant cannon. Pestilence is just like a very sick, ill-looking horse, and then I think Famine is just dead. It's just very skinny and it's dead. Famine. Such a good game. Heartily recommend. 100%. Here's a game that is dead. It's dead. You can't play it online. unless they've released it on Steam, which I don't think they have. But that is, and a lot of people are going to lynch me for this, because I know this game shares a name with a very popular series of RPGs, both tabletop and video game, which is Shadowrun. This Shadowrun is kind of my only exposure to the series. I'll freely admit that. I don't look at it as a game tied to a franchise. It just happens to be a game called Shadowrun. It's got really nothing to do with the general RPG, which is where magic is rediscovered, and there's some eldritch shit as well, and high technology and blah blah blah. This is well, let's be honest, it's Counter-Strike with magic, and that's awesome. It's very, very cool. It has bots. You can still play this. It's still a lot of fun, to be honest, and it's got System Link. If you really, really desperately wanted to, and you happen to have more than one Xbox 360, like I do, I need a second copy of this game on a link cable, but you could play it. You could play against each other. I just wish it had co-op. I just wish it had local. That'd be nice. But yeah, this was one of the very first games to have cross-platform play. Now, I know that's fairly common nowadays. You'll be like, oh, you can play Minecraft from your Switch against your friend who's on the PC, or you can play Call of Duty with someone who's on PlayStation 5 and play it against somebody who's on the Xbox. Yay, if you want to do that, which is fine. But then, no. No. And it was particularly egregious because whilst console shooters rely very heavily on auto-aim, PC doesn't. So as a result, they're considerably more accurate, and they just killed you. All the time. Luckily, their servers went down first. So it got to a point where you could actually play this game online. I think you can. I think you can still play it online. But yeah, this was such a fucking good game. Like, it's still full of lore in its little manual. I still read the manual. It's probably one of the few manuals I actually go back and read constantly, because it's really cool. But yeah, I mean, you can play as elves, humans, dwarves, or trolls. Each have their own. Each have like a class, and then you can buy like a set series of weapons, set series of magic, and set series of tech. And each thing does something wildly different, completely changes your playstyle. For me, I tend to have Strangle, which spawns crystals that do damage over time to anybody caught in them. Summon, which summons like a big demon thing that goes around killing everybody, which is awesome. This was supposed to have a full-blown campaign. It's such a shame it didn't get it. But I heartily recommend Shadowrun if you're into playing games of this particular genre. Yeah, it's very good. Did this come out? Ooh, wow, this game's older than I thought it was. But I encountered it in 2009, so I'm counting it. Jericho, or Clive Barker's Jericho by Clive Barker, is the second or third game by renowned horror creator Clive Barker. Now, I think Clive Barker's a very talented storyteller. He's very good at taking horrifying concepts and putting them in putting a very unique twist on them. There's a lot of lore here in this game. I'll get into what I don't like about it in a minute, but its major key focus is, unlike the game Undying, which preceded this, Clive Barker's Undying by Clive Barker, Jericho is very linear. It's a squad-based horror shooter, which is very weird, and each member of your squad can do different things. So there's a guy who has a demon for an arm that he can open, and it catches everything on fire. There's a woman who does blood magic. My favourite is Holly Black, who's a telekinetic lesbian sniper, and that's a big part of her character, is that she's a lesbian, not that she's telekinetic, but she has the ability to kind of steer her bullets, which is awesome. And it doesn't cost any ammo to use. You just fire this telekinetic bullet that you can use to kind of blast through people's heads. And her sniper rifle, which is her only weapon, is both a sniper rifle and a grenade launcher. So you can shoot grenades at long distance. And her other ability is kind of like close form pyrokinesis. So if anyone gets too close, she just goes, "Bleh!" and they catch fire and back off, which is awesome. There's other people who are fucking annoying, like Father Rawlings, but yeah, it's a very layered story. It's very good. Every character is very distinct. I can remember most of them, even if they're really boring, like not Cole. Johnson. Johnson's very dull. His whole shtick is he's a by-the-book soldier. That's it. But that's it. That's all he is. And I think that's a bit of a shame. what I don't like about Jericho is its cheats. Its cheat system. So its cheat system was tied to, you rang a phone line. You had to ring a phone line. You give them the code that I think is in the manual, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So you had to call this, and then you had to go to the main menu, go to bonus codes and write down the access code, and then you called the hint line, and then they'd scroll through all of the different bits and pieces of whatever, and you'd just basically be fucked. You wouldn't be able to use the cheats otherwise, which sucks, because you got stuff like unlimited ammo, auto-succeed survival events, fast health regeneration power melee, infinite fire demon. Like, what the fuck? Why are the shit with the cheats tied to a hint system? Money. Just money. So as a result, you can't use the cheats in fucking Jericho. Bullshit. I don't think you can in the PC version either. I think that's tied behind some deep voodoo crap. But yeah, moving on. Another game I discovered in 2009 was Section 8. So I remember a few things. I don't remember a whole lot of 2009, but what I do remember is Halo Wars, Batman Arkham Asylum, Brutal Legend, and Section 8, Halo ODST, and Section 8. I think Section 8 is a lot of fun. You're a super soldier on par with a Spartan from Halo, fired out of a dropship from like high altitude, and you crash into the ground. And the whole point of the game is territory control, but you can set up emplacements, you can set up anti-air that prevent anyone flying in, or they can fly in, but they'll take a shitload of damage. It drops in tanks, mechs, bikes, all that sort of thing. We got a sequel called Section 8 Prejudice, unfortunately before Timegate went under for being involved in Aliens Colonial Marines. And Prejudice, I think, is a better game, but Section 8 is its own unique thing, and it's such a shame that the series just kind of died. It kind of died. It was this fascinating concept into how to make a really interesting multiplayer shooter, kind of like Tribes. It's like Tribes, but with kind of like engineering stuff from TF2. It's really, genuinely very cool. It's very cool, and it's such a shame that the game developer just went under, and I think the IP's lost to time now. I don't know who owns it. Probably Gearbox, because they're trash. But yeah. Okay, moving on. I will freely admit I stole the cardboard cover for this from a CEX about 5-6 years ago. It's Dark Void. Dark Void. I talked about Dark Void a couple of times. It's a cool little shooter. It's very clearly missing half of the game. Like, you go from what should be the third act into the final boss immediately, and it's like, where's the rest of the game? It's a shame, because the developer went under a few years later after they made a much more concrete and concise game in the form of Murdered Soul Suspect. Murdered Soul Suspect was very cool, but this gives you a jetpack. It's the closest game I've ever played to having a fucking good, like actual flying jetpack, not just a jump pack like most games give you. A full-blown, infinite flight jetpack. And you can switch from jetpack to jump pack to fucking on foot sections. There's bits where you're, you have to aim down because the enemies are like on a lower level and they're hanging on, shooting up at you. It's awesome. It's such a shame that the game is so clearly unfinished. I bought that game for about 30-40 quid back in 2010. I chose it over Darksiders, for fuck's sake. I chose it over Darksiders, and then literally a week later it was 15. And I was like, that's fine. That's okay. Why not? Of course. That's fine. Fuck you. Moving on. So we're into 2011 now. We've moved on. We've moved on from the dark days of 2000. I say dark days, 2011. A lot of good games. So yeah. Brink. So I know Splash Damage. Splash Damage are the developers of this. They're developers of another game I really like called Enemy Territory Quake Wars, which is based on the Wolfenstein Enemy Territory mod from back in the day, which then became an official thing. Blah blah blah. Brink is a game that tried to take parkour, tie it into one button, and add it into a multiplayer setting. And quite frankly, the game is hideous. Its art style is very different, very unique. It was hyped like nobody's business back in the day. It didn't take off. It didn't take off at all, which is a shame. You can find this game for like 50p. Just lying around. Nobody bought it, which is a shame. I bought it full price, and I played the shit out of that game. I played the fuck out of it. Because it was awesome. I still go back and play it. Its lore's really interesting. It's got really good music. Excellent voice acting from a lot of the audio logs. As I said, lore's good. Campaign, solid. Multiplayer's solid. Character creation, everything's free. You just earn it, which is a fucking change. It's a very solid, robust game. It's just it didn't quite capture it. It didn't quite capture anyone from who was playing games like TF2 or anything similar to it at the time. I don't think it was unique enough, which sucks because it was so good. It was a lot of fun. Moving on, though. We can't even play Brink Online anymore unless it's on PC. I think you can play the PC version. But Binary Domain. This is not a game anybody really talks about. It's a 2012 Sega release. It really reminds me of Vanquish. Kind of. So, all the enemies are robots. When you shoot them, bits fly off. It still looks really good. It's got a weird twist at the end, where it turns out the Americans are the enemies, just like Vanquish. Spoilers, I told you. But Binary Domain is a sort of squad-based third-person shooter. It had multiplayer, like 10-player multiplayer, which is pretty cool. It could have done with local co-op, quite frankly, but yeah. Each enemy's very different. It's set in Japan. You're fighting all these robots. I think the guys behind... No. Doesn't really... I think it was just developed in-house at Sega. I don't think it was actually developed by anyone else. You don't hear about Binary Domain at all. You don't. I'm going to go back and play it. I haven't played it in I probably haven't played this game in about 8 years. Just been sat on my shelf, being like, here. You really liked me when it came out? Yeah, but Vanquish exists. It's similar to Vanquish in that it's got that same kind of look. It's got that same kind of vibe. It's got that twist at the end. It's a third-person COD-based shooter. The only difference is Vanquish gave you rockets on your ass. Binary Domain unfortunately doesn't, but it does give you a persistent squad throughout the game, which is pretty cool. Moving on. Okay, so those are the games I grew up with. Those are the games that were a big part of my teenage years, going into being old. And these ones I rediscovered. I knew of them, I'd owned them before, and then I got rid of them because I thought they were shit. These games I'll do kind of in order of favourite. They're ones I rediscovered during the pandemic. During the pandemic in 2020, I was like, I've got all these games for like £1. I've got a lot of free time. I might as well try finishing them when I'm not out in the woods going on a big old walk. Starting with Singularity. Now, I bought Singularity in 2009. I think I went into the local game shop, bought it new, played maybe 10 minutes of it and went, oh, this sucks. I took it and traded it in. I traded it in, and I really question why, because that same year I traded it in for the next game, which is really weird, because then I traded that game in as well. I didn't like either of them. I thought they were terrible, but Singularity is probably it had one of the most rocky developments, to the point where the game wasn't even working like 6 months. 6 months before release, and it's one of the most robust, entertaining, fun, power-based shooters. It's like if Half-Life and Bioshock had a baby. The only bit that I think is god-awful is the fucking power tick bit. Those things are fucking cunts. They are awful. I think if they cut the multiplayer as well, they probably would have had more time to add more to this game. But at the end of the day, it gives you a fucking overpowered auto minigun that just tears through everything. And it's a lot of fun. It's a really fucking good game. I heartily recommend. Last decent game made by Raven that wasn't shit-ass Call of Duty. They could work miracles in that fucking place. As evident by the game that I traded Singularity in for, which is Wolfenstein 2009. I bought this game. I was like, oh, it's got powers, like Singularity, but maybe it's better because it's shooting Nazis, and I knew about Wolfenstein. Then I played it, I couldn't get past the first section, and I traded it in. Just... oh boy. Idiot. I've gone back and played this many times. The cheats are amazing. doesn't have any. That's why it's lower. But Wolfenstein had some pretty cool cheats that give you, like, infinite ammo on all of the weapons, especially the experimental ones, because the experimental ones are awesome, because it's stuff like a Tesla gun that rips people to shreds, a gun that atomizes them on contact, a fucking flamethrower. You know, really cool shit. There's one that's just basically a fucking a proton pack from Ghostbusters, except it disintegrates people, which is just very cool. I can't recommend this game enough. I think it's probably my favourite Wolfenstein game, after 3D. But I am going to do a Wolfenstein video. I'm in the process of getting 3, and I will talk more about Wolfenstein 2009 there, my time with it, what I thought, blah blah blah, bits that annoy me. I played a bit of its multiplayer, thinking it'd be like Quake Wars, but it wasn't, which sucked. But yeah. The major game of 2020. The one that I've gone back multiple times, and I wish I could go back in time and punch whoever at Bethesda thought cancelling the sequel to this game was a good idea. And that's Prey. The good Prey. Not 2017. 2017 can fuck off. It's a poor man's System Shock. With bad guns, bad enemies, and just way too many fucking loading screens, even on an SSD. Fuck off. Prey, though. Prey 2006. Prey 2006 is one of those very few games that was in development hell for years. It was first announced in 1997. It didn't come out for another 9. And there's a good reason for that. The technology behind it just did not exist. It didn't. This is built on a, much like, I think these two, built on id Tech. It's either 3 or 4. I can't quite remember which. But it was built on id Tech. Heavily modified version of id Tech. And it's a game that had portals before Portal did. It had gravity-defying size manipulation bollocks. It's insane. The world in the game is completely unlike anything I've ever experienced, and it's fucking awesome. It's so fucking good. You know, it's just legitimately amazing. I kind of lump Prey in with the Turok series of games with Native American characters that I really respect, more so because they're good games rather than any representation. That being said, the developers at Human Head, who have unfortunately gone under and have been bought out by fucking Bethesda, yay. Unfortunately, well, no, not unfortunately, they worked with a lot of Native American people to make sure the representation in the game was good. And they cast a couple of Native American actors. They cast Michael Grey Eyes, which is the coolest fucking name I've ever fucking heard, as the main character, Tommy, as he goes by. He Anglicanized it from Damasi. Then they cast a white guy to play his grandfather, doing a very stereotypical dummy accent, which... Why not just find an older Native American actor or ask Michael Grayles to do a voice? I mean, come on. What are you doing? Then Prey 2 got announced. And Prey 2, you play as a white American guy who's being cloned endlessly. But the whole concept was you were on a plane that crashed in the first game. And Tommy sees this. And then you were plucked out of it in the last minute, and you've been cloned constantly. And every time you die, your brain gets re-uploaded. Tommy in this game can't die. He's tied to the realm, and is basically he won't die until his designated point, which makes the gameplay very easy. But at the same time, it makes it's a lot more fun and it's a lot less stressful. So great, fantastic. You just die more on the harder levels, or die more. You know what I mean. In Prey 2, you're hunting down aliens. You're a bounty hunter, tracking down aliens across what I think is a pseudo-open world setting. Why the fuck this was cancelled, I have no idea. And I'm going to be honest with you. If anyone at Human Head wanted to leak it to the internet so we could upload it onto 360s, please do. That would be amazing. Bring back real Prey, not shit Prey. Yeah, so that's me done for another week. These are my top 10 under appreciated first-person shooters on the Xbox 360, as you can see by the giant gaping chasm of stuff that's missing from there. There were some others. There were things like Unreal Tournament 3, or I think Invisible Judgment is horribly underrated. I was going to lump Perfect Dark Zero in here, but I'm planning on doing a rare video, so I'll talk about that game then. But yeah, that's it. That's my top 10. The only one really in order is this is the best one, followed by these two. Followed by these two. Those are the best ones. Those are the best three. Those are the best three underrated shooters on the 360 as far as I'm concerned. Anyways, guys, that is me signing off for another week.